Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Today, I'm here with Derek Williams. My name is Kristen Kinsey. I'm on our Dell Public Marketing team.
Thank you all very much for having me.
Before we jump in, we like to do this segment called Five Before You Dive. So, Derek, as my first question, what originally pulled you into public service?
Oh, I'd like to pretend here that I just have a bleeding heart for public service. But the truth is, I'd been deployed over to Iraq with the Marine Corps. And when I got back, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. And my brother happened to be in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he worked for the state, the Department of Environmental Quality. And so he got me a job over there. It was originally going to be kind of a temporary thing, but then ended up kind of progressing well over there. And the undersecretary at the time took me under his wing, Mr. Vince Sagnabine. And he really,
It's a cool name.
he really changed the course of my career and honestly my life. I owe a lot to him, and that turned into a lifelong career and brought me here today.
I know you've been here a short time. We met, shortly after you joined. So it was great to be one of the first faces you saw when you
Yes.
joined our team. But before Dell, what was one of the roles that you had that most shaped how you approach your work today?
I got to give that one back to the Marine Corps.
Yes.
Being deployed overseas in the war in Iraq, I mean, that honestly changed the way I looked at a whole lot of stuff. But the team dynamic and what it meant to be a leader and be part of a team, it's a lot of the nonsense kind of goes away and you focus on what's really important. And you have to hold yourself to a certain standard. And I think that has stayed with me and will till the day I die. And, it's going to be part of what I do all the time. So got to give it to the Marine Corps for that one for sure.
And you're always on time to every Zoom call and
Let's say yes.
Yes.
Let's say yes.
So outside of work, what's one hobby that you have that helps you reset?
I need to reset a lot. Believe it or not, despite how I look now, when I was younger, I used to be really into bodybuilding and like the gym was my thing. I did a lot of motocross and I still have the race bikes in the garage. And if I really need to clear my head as an old man now, I know there's nothing that makes you not be able to think about anything else other than please don't wreck and die than getting on those bikes still. So that's my ultimate escape to this day.
So next question, what's your favorite comfort food?
Yeah, I'm gonna sidestep this a little bit. So I'm not one of those people. I don't have any food that's like I could eat that every day for the rest of my life. I like variety. So I'll give you this much though. My weakness is baked goods and French cuisine.
To close our five before we dive,
Yes.
what's your favorite cause that you care about outside of work?
So a couple I would give. I'm definitely do have a soft spot for animal rescue. So I have done some stuff with local animal rescues. I was into greyhound rescue for a while. Had a couple former racing greyhounds. It was awesome, but I don't have the yard for it anymore. Other than that, any of the veterans groups, several of which I met here, always a big cause, especially for the Marine Corps Wounded Warrior Project being probably the top one.
So you're in a unique perspective. You've been a state CIO,
Yep.
you've co-owned your own private IT company. Now you've been at Dell, this large enterprise business. What has kind of been the biggest perspective shift moving from your previous role to now here on the public strategy team?
One of the things that's been the most fun, I think, for me is a lot of people are probably under a misunderstanding that a lot of the states work with each other and talk to each other all the time. There's like some secret CIO club.
They don't?
No, we see each other maybe a couple times a year at conferences. And so you really kind of live in a bit of a silo and it's whatever is going on in your state at that time is what's important. So being able to go around the country and really get embedded with all the different states and see what kind of challenges they face, it was fascinating to me to see that like so many of the problems overlap everywhere and kind of everyone has the same or similar sets of problems. And it's something that's just not discussed that much. So that's been fun being able to step back a little bit and get that perspective.
So one of the things that makes Dell unique is the public sector strategy team. How does being on that team, how does that look like in practice when you're talking to customers every day?
Yeah, I think Dell did a very smart thing by pulling in people from the public sector to do this. And it's been really fun because not only are we there to kind of help look at best practices and work with the public side, but Dell uses this as much kind of in the opposite way too, where we get to advise them on how they need to change and best work with the public sector. And this is something they're doing not just for SLG, but for K-12 and high ed and, healthcare. So it's been awesome to be kind of foundationally there as this has started and be able to be that bridge between the two to make things better on both sides.
So over the last year, as I've gotten to get to know you and as I've kind of seen you speak on various AI panels, you definitely like to hit home and talk about art of AI and, the art of instead of art of the probable, the art of the possible. Can you help unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a running joke for us internally. we hear a lot about art of the possible. And I think a lot of people do not understand on the public side how difficult it is and how catastrophically punished sometimes failure can be. You know, in the private sector, we try a lot of things and they might not work. And, you know, there's a focus on how do we adjust and fix that and make it work. But on the public side, if something goes wrong and you don't hit budgets or timelines, there is a line of people, and, you know, there's politics, there's the public, you might make the paper, and you will get absolutely grilled. And a lot of times, you know, it is not pleasant if things don't go right. So it's become kind of a funny thing when we hear art of the possible on the public side. A lot of times we interpret that as not ready for prime time. And there's kind of this thing where when you're in the public, the threshold, the risk tolerance is much lower than it is in the private sector. And so what you end up having to do is really find things and solutions that have been validated and you've seen work elsewhere that have a low risk of failing. And so, you know, art of the possible, whenever that comes up, we're like, we don't want that. We want the art of the probable, a thing that is likely to work. And sometimes we even say, we're not going to do the art of the possible. We're going to implement a part of the possible. So, yeah, it's one of those things that we ever talked to it. It's something I think on the private side, we really need to be more cognizant of is, you know, how important that is in the public sector.
And like what you can actually could do with the
Yes.
resources you have.
Yes, absolutely.
Y'all have told me as you're talking to customers, a lot of them in the public sector are kind of getting stuck between pilot to production. Public sector customers face experiences that are unique to them. Can you talk a little bit about those constraints that they face?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think it's something on the private side that this is one of the places we need to work on is really getting on in there and understanding and having, you know, some sympathy and flexibility to work within those constraints. They have federal constraints, state constraints, the laws. Procurement is such a big deal. Contract vehicles, what you have to go through for an RFP, the way they can pay, the way the budget cycles work. They don't have the flexibility that we do on the private side, and understanding that and giving them fully vetted solutions, and flexible ways that they can contract those, pay for them, the ability to provide adequate support and staff augmentation where they need it to help them fill those gaps. I mean, that's really the differentiator between just a partner and someone who's selling them something.
All right, so we've talked about this a little bit, but now that you've been kind of on both sides, previously being the CIO for the state of Louisiana, now on Dell, what is the biggest thing that surprised you since you've made the shift over?
You know, funny enough, what I had the most difficulty with, and this sounds so stupid and unbelievable in some way, was how friendly and helpful everyone was. I didn't realize at the time, but, you know, we were talking about how you've always kind of got to be watching your back in the state, and there's a lot the public, everything's public record.
Yeah.
There's the politics overlay, all that kind of stuff. I hadn't realized like how used I had gotten to kind of suiting up every day for battle, having to justify everything. And I remember a couple weeks in, you know, my new boss Jennifer Aber, who's just been amazing. She pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, you know, how's everything going? Are you doing all right? You having any issues?" And I told her, I said, "Honestly, I'm having a hard time. Like, I can't tell if all these people are serious. Everyone's constantly, 'Good morning, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do?'" It's just a weird culture shift to where people actually want to help you solve the problem and not point fingers. And, you know, honestly, it's improved my mental health, my physical health has been it's been amazing, and I really have loved it. And it's such a wild shift, and such a great thing, really. That looking back, I wish we could get that kind of culture on the public sector more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I know this may sound like a softball,
yeah. Here it comes.
but before you joined Dell, obviously you had a long relationship with us. So working with multiple vendors across the space, like what's the clear differentiation you see?
Oh, you're teeing it up.
Yes.
You're teeing it up. No, it's a good question. Especially being inside of Dell now. I mean, Dell always had this incredible global reach, but one of the things that sticks out to me now, everyone knows Dell as, hey, we build servers and storage and laptops and desktops. But what's really interesting about Dell is they architect all the infrastructure, but then the massive partner network that sits on top of that. For the public sector, this becomes extremely important, like we were talking about, because what happens is these providers and these partners, they validate these solutions on Dell hardware. And then they can come in and say, here is this vetted solution kind of ready to go that we know we can support and will perform at this level. It's not piecemeal. It's not just a bunch of people getting together for an RFP out of convenience. You know, it's a package solution. Like we said, with that risk threshold that's in the public sector, that is extremely valuable.
Well, thank you so much for spending time today and talking with me a little bit about your experience. Do you have any final message or anything we could let the folks know?
Yeah, no, it's been my pleasure. I would just say if anybody, public sector or any other sectors, high ed, K-12, if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to your strategist. Reach out to us if you don't know who your strategist is. This is a fairly new initiative at Dell, so come talk to us and we'll be that bridge for you.